Over the past few days, quite a lot of Destiny 2 news and information has been released. Today we're going to go over said news and information to keep you guys as up to date as possible with Destiny 2 and the upcoming Warmind Expansion. So let's get started. What is up, guys? Rick is here, and today we do have quite a lot to go over. We've got several sources of information, but mainly we do have yesterday's This Week at Bungie, which is our official big news source. Now, I apologize for not being able to cover it yesterday. I had some real life stuff to take care of, and you may notice I sound a little different. I'm a little bit sick, so I apologize for that as well. But let's get started right away with something I think a lot of people want to know, which is, how big is this expansion? How much content are we getting? And in a literal sense, how big is the area we are going to? Well, actually, we've had a leak or a piece of information that has come out because this is apparently an image of what the map will look like for the new public space area on Mars for the Warmind expansion. Now, we can see there's definitely a circular pattern to it in the sense that there's a little narrow causeway that connects two different areas, but very importantly, the thing that stood out to me is the fact that there's two landing zones. Now, two landing zones just indicates the size of this playable space. You know, if you go back to Mercury, it only had literally the one spot, and on top of that, you weren't even allowed to use sparrows to kind of, I assume, make the space seem bigger than it actually was. But we've already seen Guardians utilizing sparrows in this new space. Two landing zones, again, is an indication of size, and just looking at the map, it does seem like this will be a good chunk bigger than the area on Mercury, and that's absolutely fantastic. Remember that not only do we have the new escalation protocol activity happening in this public space, which is playable with up to 6 people. Now, you can only matchmake with 3 of them in your fire team, but other randoms can join in. But we're also going to have just normal public events happening. During the live stream, we saw a witch's ritual, like a hive ritual public event happening in the background. They didn't even go to that. But again, that's an indication that there's just public events going on within this space. Alright, now moving on from there, let's talk about more content coming in this expansion in the form of strikes. Strikes are, I would argue, a pretty important part of any expansion. Playing strikes is a pretty big part of just playing the game, and especially now because there's strike exclusive loot introduced into the Nightfalls, strikes have become a lot more important. Well, there's going to be 3 new strikes added with the Warmind expansion. 2 universal strikes and 1, I'm sorry, PlayStation exclusive strike. In fact, each of these 3 different strikes has a little blurb about it, so let's talk about that. The first one is called the Strange Terrain Strike. It's quoted as saying, "Descend deep into the tunnels under the Helios Basin and take the fight to the Herald of Zol. Stop this Hive Prince before he can funnel more power to the Worm God." Now, the second universal strike is Will of the Thousands. Rasputin's neural network is under attack. Take the Valkyrie and use it to defeat a monstrous foe. So the Valkyrie is referring to the new spear weapon that you can gain with this new expansion. It's a pickup weapon just like the battle axe in the Rise of Iron. And moving on from there, the PlayStation exclusive strike is called Insight Terminus, quoted as saying, "Zavala needs a team of Guardians to break into a Vex tomb on Nessus that has been overrun by the Cabal. Defeat the powerful Scion Commander before he can take over the Vex Gateway network and reap the rewards." Alright, now moving on from there, let's discuss the information in the Bungie weekly update. Firstly, let's talk about exotics. Exotics are getting pretty substantially overhauled in Warmind. Not only are most exotics seeing substantial game-changing buffs, but there's also the introduction of Masterwork Exotics. So, how do you get an exotic to a Masterwork version? Well, upgrading an exotic to a Masterwork exotic is actually a two-step process. Number one, you need to acquire the catalyst for that exotic. So, taking a look at the Cold Heart here showcased in the Bungie Weekly Update, we can see that the Cold Heart catalyst is found in strikes against the most challenging opponents. So, likely in Nightfall strikes or Heroic strikes, you have the chance for this catalyst to drop for the Cold Heart. Now, other examples of exotics have been shown. We have the Huckleberry here, which is a new SMG coming in Warmind. And you can see that its catalyst is found through heroism in the most challenging adventures. So, any sort of hard adventures, that is going to be the way you get this catalyst. Now, Bungie has stated that acquiring catalysts is going to be different for different weapons. Some have guaranteed drops after doing a certain amount of an activity, and others remain completely random. So, for some exotics, they're going to be much harder to upgrade into Masterworks than others. Now, once you acquire the catalyst, the exotic weapon it applies to is going to change to part 1 of a Masterwork. So, immediately, it's going to enable orb generation on double kills for that weapon. So exactly like a normal legendary Masterwork, which for many exotics in the game, I'm thinking the Wardcliff Coil, that already is going to be fantastic. For orb generation, it's just going to enable you to use exotics more freely when you're doing especially PvE activities. That orb generation for Masterworks has been no joke. But again, that's part 1. After you acquire the catalyst, you're going to have a bounty-like objective for that weapon. Going back to the Cold Heart here, you can see you have Upgrade Masterwork. Defeat enemies using Cold Heart to unlock this upgrade. So just kill enemies with the Cold Heart, and then you will upgrade it to part 2 of this Masterwork. And as you can see down in the right-hand corner of the screen, the Cold Heart for upgrading to a complete Masterwork is going to receive a substantial stats buff, a pretty big chunk of stability, and a pretty big chunk of reload speed. Now, these secondary upgraded Masterworks are going to be different for every single exotic. Some are going to receive, again, a massive stats bonus like the Cold Heart. Apparently, for the Vigilance Wing exotic pulse rifle, it's going to receive the fully auto perk. So it's just going to be able to be fully automatic. So, again, different exotics will have different upgraded states, and that's actually a really, really cool feature. So depending on the exotic, the experience of upgrading it to a Masterwork is going to vary drastically. Bungie states that some exotics will require you to do pretty hard activities in order to upgrade it to Masterwork, especially something like the Legend of Acreus. I mean, it's associated with the raid. You're likely going to have to do some stuff in the raid to get it Masterwork, perhaps even the Prestige raid. Now, let's keep talking about exotics by showcasing some of the huge buffs coming to exotics on May 8th. Bungie has been showing off little clips of gameplay of certain exotics that showcases what buffs they're getting. So, let's start here with the Tractor Cannon. The Tractor Cannon is a big one. Previously, it just pushes guys away, and while it can be hilarious, it really isn't too effective. Well, now, when you hit an enemy with a Tractor Cannon, it's going to provide a debuff to that enemy. Firstly, it's going to suppress them. So in PvE, it's going to cause them to, if they're in the middle of an attack, they may stop it. They're likely going to cower in fear. In PvP, if they're in a super and you hit them, it's going to do what a suppression grenade does and take them out of that super, which is actually pretty huge. But in addition to that, especially for PvE, it's going to provide a kind of debuff where that enemy that has been hit takes bonus void damage for 10 seconds. So let's go on to the clip. So as you can see, a pretty powerful weapon. Starting an attack with even just a single shot of a Tractor Cannon is going to pretty substantially increase your damage output. I mean, this makes farming, I'm thinking Nightfalls especially, a lot more attractive to utilize this exotic. I mean, you're already using a Void Singe quite a lot of the time. Now having a weapon that you can just murk bosses with, that's very powerful. Now moving on from there, we have the Hard Light Exotic Auto Rifle. So previously, you could switch the elements of this weapon by going into your inventory, inspecting this weapon, and then changing them. Now, with the Exotic Pass, you're going to be able to change the element on the fly, just while you're aiming down sights. So this is going to let it be utilized so much easier in PvE. See a guy with a Void Shield, switch it to Void, take him out. Oh, right beside him is a guy with an Arc Shield, switch to Arc, take that guy out. Get the explosions every single time. This is what it looks like. So not as flashy as some of the other stuff, but the versatility is actually pretty insane. Especially since Bungie has confirmed that the match game modifier for Nightfalls is returning. So the hard light is going to be nuts there. On top of that, your bullets that bounce off surfaces now do double damage. So honestly, like, you can line up to a boss, just shoot at the ground, angle it right at the boss, and do double damage pretty easily. Like, that seems actually really good for certain scenarios. Now, speaking of the Borealis sniper rifle, however, it's also been showcased with a change. So now, with the Borealis, if you break a shield with the correct elemental type, so if you're using Void and you shoot a Void Shield and it does the Void Shield explosion because of that, the rest of the rounds in your magazine are going to deal double damage. Now, of course, in PvE, this is very, very good. The Borealis has 5 rounds, so a single shot to an enemy, off to the corner, break his shield, go to the boss, and those last 4 shots are dealing a lot of damage. But in PvP, it also happens. You can break shields when people are in their supers, and if you do, it can lead to stuff like this. Yup, a disgusting 3-piece by killing the guy in the solar super with a solar shot and then getting that double damage bonus to body shot the 2 other guys. Very, very powerful. Now, moving on from there, let's talk about ranked PvP. This is a big feature in this expansion, and there's 2 types of ranks. There's Valor and there's Glory. Now, Valor is just from playing the normal Crucible. You rank up if you win, you don't lose anything if you lose. Glory is from the competitive playlist. You do go down if you lose and you go up if you win. Now, there's different rankings for both Valor and Glory. Firstly, there's Guardian. You can rank up to Brave, then Heroic, then Fabled, then Mythic, then Legend. Now, for Fable, in terms of rewards for ranking up Glory, Bungie has gone over that there's an exclusive pulse rifle shown here, with a unique perk, Desperado. If you're reloading with Outlaw, which is another perk on this weapon, you're going to increase your rate of fire. No damage decrease, just a pure increase to your rate of fire, which is going to increase your time to kill and could make this weapon extremely deadly. Now, you're going to get this weapon when you get to, again, Fabled in Glory. So there's absolutely a reason to rank up in your competitive playlist. Again, this weapon is only attained for getting Fabled with your Glory rank. You can't get it any other way. So you're going to have to grind, and for the people who do grind, they're going to get a pretty sweet weapon from the looks of it. Now, keep in mind, that's not the only reward, and that's not the only weapon that is locked behind the different ranks of Valor and Glory. The different Crucible weapons will be at different stages as well. Now, there is a little bit more to these rankings. For example, you have win bonuses, and for Glory, you have losing bonuses. Your first 3 games per week for glory will impact either a bonus in points or they'll stop decay. Once you get to the top 2 rankings in glory, you're actually going to decay each week in your points unless you play up to 3 matches, if you play those 3 matches. So quite a lot going on with this system. I'm just very excited to see actual tangible rewards tied to these rankings. Moving on from there, talking about PvP, let's get to the last Iron Banner of Season 2. So the finale is going to start Tuesday, May 1st, and it's going to end Tuesday, May 8th. The game is Control, and remember, it is back to 6v6. In fact, according to Bungie, they hear that 6v6 is highly desired, and Control remains the most popular game mode. So apparently, for every Iron Banner going forward in Season 3, they're all going to be 6v6, and they're all going to be Control. So I'm sure some people are thrilled to hear that, and others are livid. We're going to have to see how it works out, especially with the totally new meta, with all these new crazy exotics in the mix. But remember that if you're at all interested in earning any of the Season 2 ornaments for Iron Banner, this is the last chance to get it. Then they're gone forever. And so guys, that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. Now, if you guys want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.